Welcome to the Joyful Nourishment Podcast. This is a podcast about our relationship with food and eating, body image, eating disorder recovery, mental health, and more. I am your host, Lynn Thorstensen, a registered nutrition therapist and body image coach based in the west of Ireland. And I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome back to another episode of the Joyful Nourishment Podcast. And today I'm here with Siobhan Hennelly, who is a primary school teacher, nutritionist, and a personal trainer. And she has just completed her master's in psychology. And at the time of recording, Siobhan was telling me just before we started that she's just about to hand in her thesis. But I think by the time you'll be listening to this, it will be well over and completed. And probably, Siobhan, you'll be all nice and rested and ready to go for the next adventures.
I'll be a new woman.
Yes. She also has a specialist diploma in eating disorders, and she is a mum of three originally from Galway, but living in North Mayo. And I just specifically want to mention that because I feel like, people don't know that beautiful part of of Ireland, but it is also quite remote, as I found out recently when I was up there for a visit. And you can find her on Body Image for Kids, and I will link to that in the show notes. So, Siobhan, I suppose I'm always curious how people kind of get to this work, and in your case, and specifically body image and body image for kids. Like, how did you what is the path that led you here?
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for having me. The path wasn't very linear. It started off with I was doing my teacher training, and after I qualified, I went traveling. And that's where I trained to be a personal trainer in Australia. But all in a pursuit of health in my head, but like subconsciously, I know it was more for myself, more like trying to make sure that had the knowledge to stay within the realms of what society saw as healthy and as acceptable. This is nothing I ever said to myself outwardly, but on reflection, like that's definitely what was going on. So then after a few years traveling, I came back, and I was teaching and doing some personal training work as well. But to further my knowledge, went on to study nutrition, and we were talking about that. But that gave me a great basis. So initially, all my work revolved around weight loss and women. And that's predominantly what I was working with. But I just felt like it wasn't my place. I didn't feel comfortable telling people, you need to give up this, you need to give up that, that's really bad for you. And it never sat well with me. And that's when I got into, well, is anyone actually benefiting from this? They might do it for a little while, and then they actually end up feeling worse about themselves. So that's why I got started in the master's in psychology. And from that, something that I always think about is the things I say and how that has an impact. And you actually alluded to that before we came on this. It's like, how does this land with someone? Because something we say will land with two people completely different. And that just always sticks with me. I'm so cautious over the things I say to the kids in my classroom and how different children pick it up. And over the years, some of the things that teachers say, that parents say, and that I've heard other people say that the parents have said to them, like comparing to children, saying this one won't be brought by the wind, or this one's way lighter, comparing their children based on what they look like, based on their weight, based on their abilities. And that's something that's always stuck with me. And then when I was doing my work with psychology and health, it all just kind of came together. And I saw that some people think body image is, it's nice to have a nice body image and that's about it. But no, negative body image is permeating our whole lives. It impacts how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about other people. It impacts the jobs we go for. It impacts whether we continue playing sport. It impacts whether we socialize, whether we our friends, our ability to make long-lasting relationships. And so that's basically my research was in teachers' body image and how this is potentially could impact the children that they're teaching, or that they're teaching. So yeah, that's a roundabout way of how I got into it.
I think what you were just saying there in terms of I was doing I was like realized I was actually on this kind of journey for myself mostly. So that I can often it feels like well I'm doing this so I can figure out the right way or fix myself or that I think that's a quite common story for a lot of people or professionals that get into some type of healthcare. And then the other thing that you said in terms of when you were doing intentional weight loss with women and then kind of getting to that place feeling a bit of discomfort. I'm not sure, like this isn't something feels off, and I can totally relate with that for myself and also some previous podcast guests have kind of said the same thing. It's like, oh, I don't know, it just didn't feel right anymore. And I think that's just so interesting where we're kind of land at that place where it's like something just doesn't align. So a lot of your work and your thesis is around body image, but like we talk about body image and but I wonder sometimes like do people actually know what that is? What does that mean? So how would you describe it? Like when we talk about body image, what does that mean? What does that encompass?
Yeah, I'd love to know. I would love to have asked myself that question a few years ago and see what I would have come up with, because I think people think it's um, liking what you look at in the mirror, and that's kind of it. But it has so much more. So there's kind of four components to body image. There's how we feel about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves. So just instantly what you look at in the mirror, and then it's the behaviors you do because of these reactions. And the thing about body image is it's changing all the time. So how we think about our bodies completely changes on a day-to-day basis, depending on how we're feeling, and we all know those days. Um, but it's the behaviors we engage in then because of the thoughts that we're having that really impact our lives. So some people might look in the mirrors in the morning and they might perceive something that they don't like, and so this sets them off in having a thought of I feel X, Y, and Z. That's making and then emotionally, how is that making them feel? And then they engage in perhaps restriction of food, over exercising, maybe overeating, eating more than they want, just to get rid of the feelings. And those feelings can be shame, the feelings can be embarrassment, guilt, and that's the negative side of things. So then there's obviously this positive body image where you feel good about it, but that can be changeable as well. That can be dependent sometimes on what we look like. You might think you have a good body image, but that might just be because you feel like you are fitting into an ideal that's set up in society. So what the literature is saying now, and a lot of the experts, is that the thing to aim for is something called neutral body image. And this looks at, regardless of how you're feeling about your body today, you still do everything in your power to look after your body, to care for your body, and to respect your body. And so you don't put yourself in a situation where your body might be in danger, or you might be doing things that hurt your body, such as restriction of food, such as possibly putting yourself in dangerous situations, like saying yes to things that you know you probably shouldn't have, and that goes more into consent and things like that as well. So yeah, that's kind of I don't know if that's more confusing, but body image is how we think, feel, perceive our body, and the behaviors we do in relation to that.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I think it's important to mention that it is more than just liking or not liking what we see. That's only one part of it, but it's like the bigger from there, or how how our bodies feel can also influence of what we think we see, and then how the behaviors go in different directions. And you said like your research is really about looking at teachers and the impact of their body image and their relationship with their body, and how that would then impact the children in the classroom. And I suppose, would you say that like you're a parent as well, and like does like that kind of transfer to parents or anybody who is, you know, around young people?
Yeah, 100%. Parents, definitely when the children are younger, are going to be the most influential impact on their children's body image. Then as children get a bit older into their adolescent years, it's going to be peers that have the biggest impact, their friends. But if we look at, so there's the Bronfenbrenner framework, so the bioecological framework, and that looks at all the impacts on the development of the child. So you have first the child's own biological makeup and their genetics and how they're going to be predisposed to different things. And then the next impact is going to come from their immediate contacts. So their family, their friends, but also the teachers and also neighbors as well, depending on the relationships there in the for the family. And then you have impacts coming from a parent's workplace, like because is that adding stress to the parent, and that's impacting the child as well, and things like that. But we have society and diet culture then when we're talking about things in terms of body image, and that is impacting them as well. So all this is all influential, but definitely at the start, the younger the child is, the most of it is coming from the parents and the way the parents' own relationship with food, the parents' relationship with their body, the way they serve food, the way they communicate to each other, the way they engage with the media, the way they comment on other people's bodies, and things like that. And I just want to say, because I say this at the start of every talk I do, that this is definitely, there's no judgment coming from here, because definitely things I say, people are like, oh my God, I definitely have said that or done that. But I have too. And you can only do better when you know better. And like we don't know enough about this yet. And it's not talked about enough because it's so normal to fat shame ourselves, to talk negatively about our bodies. You never enter a conversation of women who are saying, I love my arms, I'm so proud of my legs for all they can do. It's always negative. And so trying to reverse this, and we don't have to do it for ourselves initially. We can do it for the little ears that are listening. And just because we're not saying it directly to a child that your arms are too big or you're too skinny for this or whatever it is, they overhear it, they bring everything on, they internalize it at all, regardless of whether you're talking to them or not. So we really need to first be aware of this and then work on changing it.
Yeah, so what you're saying, like even if you're not saying to your children that, you know, even if you're not commenting on their bodies, but if you're commenting on about your own body in a negative way, they will pick that up and they can also potentially internalize that, even if it wasn't directing at them.
Exactly, because that's the framework they're looking at of this is how I think, this is how I learn to think about my body, this is how I talk about money. And our children grow up looking quite like us as well. And so, and they'll hear that, they'll hear, oh, you're the cut of your mother or whatever. And they hear, well, my mother says that she's too fat or she's too big or she's not good enough or she can't wear a swimming suit or whatever it is. Um, they learn that as their own internal dialogue then.
Yeah. And even I think what you said there as well was that even if you maybe are at the very beginning of your own work of building a better relationship with your body, like just the act of like not commenting out loud can have a profound effect on everybody around you. So even if you don't, you still think those negative thoughts, if you don't verbalize them outwards, that could actually be really helpful for
Oh, yeah.
everyone, I think,
So
including oneself.
helpful. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think one thing you can do is, if this is something you have done a lot, and no shame, like, because we've been brought up, that's how we learned to talk about bodies. So absolutely, there's nothing to feel bad about. But definitely, even saying to your child or to anyone, I've said things in the past that I don't think were very good. Like, I've talked about other people's bodies in a very negative way, and I think I'm going to try and stop that now and work on talking more positively, or just not commenting on people's bodies at all. So I just want to, like, saying something like that to a child is so powerful and can have such an impact on them.
Yeah. So there's always space for reparation as well and for
Yeah,
changing things. That's nice
yeah,
to know. I think it's important because it is like that. If you're if you aren't aware and you've been engaging in these things, which I think most of us have at some point, uh, then it's like important to go actually, but you can undo it and you can change the trajectory no matter where you're kind of are on that path, I think. Might be, there's and I wonder as well, like in the work that you've done, or when you talk to people, like sometimes there's the three generations. There's the child, there's the parent, maybe the mother or the female caregiver, and then there's grandparents as well. And the grandparents, which we kind of, or our mothers inherited, or if we're the parent inherited our negative body image talk, they're also growing up in diet culture, most of them. So like, have you any kind of thoughts of how to navigate that particular space? Because I'd say that's pretty common too.
yeah. They're like the worst offenders for commenting on bodies. And they're coming from a place of, that's just normal. This is what we do, and that's the way bodies are treated. And absolutely don't go gung ho for the poor grandparents saying, "How dare you?" Because this is what they grew up with. So it depends on your relationship first. If it's a mother-in-law or if it's an aunt or an uncle, it's going to be different from if it's your own parents. So depending on, you can just say it to them directly. We actually don't talk about bodies that way. So and so is very happy with the way her body is changing. She's getting bigger. She's getting older. And then, so if you can say it directly, just having that conversation, we're not commenting on bodies, we're not commenting on food. But also saying it to your child. So let's say Nana says something that it was always said, "Oh, she's a fine, stocky girl," or something like that. This is just things. And talking to your child about that. God, Nana or Auntie Mary or whoever commented on your body. How did that feel for you? And then just having that open conversation, making sure that there's always a place to have this conversation, and talk to them then about, lots of people might start commenting on our bodies, but that has absolutely nothing to do with us. People who are talking about other people's body, it has to do with them. And what we need to concentrate on is, what does your body do for you? What someone thinks or says about our body doesn't change the fact that you have a wonderful ability to whatever, that you are still so lovable. A child just needs to feel lovable. And if they hear that they're lovable, regardless of anything else, I mean, that's going to help them to get through whatever obstacles they come towards. So just hearing that, um, and focusing on body functionality, all your body can do. I'm so happy my legs can do whatever. I'm so happy my arms can do. I'm so happy. I love playing whatever sport or whatever game or engaging in whatever. I love hugging you. I love how my clothes feel. And going from there. But if you can directly say to a person who's commenting on your child's body, cut them off straight away, change the subject. So the Americans come home from whatever, "Oh my God, you've changed so much." Sorry if I did a really bad accent, but you've changed so much. Say, just change the subject straight away. oh yeah, she's really good at piano now, or she's whatever. So there's just a few things. Say it directly, change the subject, or talk to your child afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds really, really sound advice. And I think that, yeah, that would be really helpful, even for the adult children. I think you
Yeah.
go visiting your parents or your in-laws, and there's comments on your body or on other people's bodies, and you can apply the same thing. It's like, well, how did that make me feel? Or
Yes.
bring it to
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
therapist to to
Yeah.
explore
Yeah.
that afterwards, or kind of gone, or just say, yeah, we don't talk about it, but it's like not interesting to others' bodies aren't particularly interesting to me, or whatever. I
Yeah.
still have that with my own mother-in-law. Sometimes I kind of,
Oh yeah.
it's just not
Always.
interesting,
Yeah.
But like, why is it important to foster a healthy body image in kids, like in children? And maybe this is a somewhat obvious question, but I still want to ask it in from what you've seen in your work as well. Like, why do you think it's important that we have this conversation, both in at large in society, but also like at home and with our children?
Yeah, that's a great question because again, the idea is that, oh, it's just nice to have a good body image. It doesn't actually impact anything important. But it impacts so much. Firstly, kind of the more obvious one is our self-esteem, a child's self-esteem. So we're not born into the world having a bad body image. We learn this, and we learn this through observation of other people and how people react to certain types of bodies. And if we have a body that other people aren't reacting favorably to, then it can really impact how we feel about ourselves and our self-esteem. And again, self-esteem is about feeling lovable. But if your body doesn't fit the stereotype of what lovable is, then you're like, oh, well, it's okay if that person treats me badly because I don't deserve anything better. Um, so it's really trying to separate our bodies from who we are and from what we deserve. So making the child feel lovable, feeling competent that they are deserving of whatever it is. So first, that's the first thing. It impacts self-esteem, it impacts confidence, it impacts their relationships with other people. So if again, that can be down to self-esteem and confidence, not having the ability to go and make new friends, but also if you're, and this is more in the adolescence, if their heads are in social media and they're constantly editing footage or pictures, there's that social anxiety then coming out where I don't look like the photoshopped pictures of myself, or I don't look like other people on social media. And so it can definitely stop people from wanting to go out and build relationships there. It also impacts education. Girls, or girls as well, but boys is also are way less likely to put up their hands or engage in classroom discussions if they have a negative body image because they don't want that attention drawn on themselves. Also, girls with negative body image are way less likely to enter STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, and maths. And then also, they're way more likely to people with low teens with low body image to miss days of school, to not go into exams, and just to engage in the class or school environment in general. That kind of leads on to sports then too. So 1 in 5 girls are dropping out of sport by the age of 14. And that can be due to a load of things. It can be due to fear of judgment. They're going through puberty, so their bodies are changing and they don't want that extra attention. And they mightn't feel safe depending on where they have to go for their sport. So that's more outside of body image. But also something I've noticed in the classroom, or in the classroom in primary schools, is that team jerseys are all one size. They don't cater for the diverse shapes and sizes that all of our children come in. And so as the children are getting older and their bodies are changing, these jerseys are getting tighter and tighter or not fitting as well. And so that's really off-putting for children to continue engaging in sports as well. So that's something that's come up in talks as well, that I've been doing. Um, So when we get older, then body image can impact, like asking people on dates. It can impact whether we ask for pay rises, promotions in work. It impacts whether we go for job interviews. Oh, I'll go for this interview when I lose weight, when I start going to the gym, when I feel better about myself. So yeah, it has the ability to impact so much. And then on top of all that, it's teenagers with lower body image are way more likely going to engage in really dangerous behaviors such as alcohol, smoking, um, steroid use, using sunbeds, um, and again, just getting themselves into dangerous situations because of low confidence and low self-esteem as well.
Yeah. And then I suppose it also, to the very long list of impacts that you just lined out, I would also imagine like it predisposes people to disordered eating and eating disorders, because if you poor body image or poor relationship with your body, you're more likely to engage in dieting behaviors, and then that can snowball into a full-blown
Yeah,
eating disorder as well.
I forgot the most obvious one.
That's okay, but I think you pretty much listed out a whole host of things that I didn't think about. And I suppose because I'm not in the sport environment, but the jersey thing is a pretty interesting one, and something that feels when it's been brought to attention that it's a quite easy fix.
Yeah, such an easy fix, but it hasn't been brought to anyone's attention.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, it's just getting it out there.
yeah. And then from that, and I suppose when you teach this to people and you're doing talks in sports clubs or with teachers and parents and in clubs, like what are the reactions you get from people hearing all these things that, just having a good body image is not just like a nice to have, actually has real consequences if we're not tending to this appropriately,
Yeah,
or even being aware of it.
there can be light bulb moments because at the start of it, I asked people to reflect on maybe a time that someone commented on their body when they were a child. And oh my God, everyone has a million times when that happened because we all remember a time when someone commented on our body and we know exactly how we felt when that happened. And so that opens up the whole conversation. Okay, well, if you can remember this 10-second moment from when you were 5 or 6 or 7, and how has that impacted on how you view yourself, then it's a really easy buy-in after that. They realize, okay, yeah, this does have a huge impact. And the biggest impact is on, if it's sports club, like the eating behaviors of the children. And mostly like younger children aren't going to have that much control over what they're eating. Their parents are providing it, but it's then the teenagers going into the early 20s. We can see the real impacts of food and eating mixed with low body image and what that is doing to the health of our children. And like post COVID, I mean, eating disorders are up over 60%. So we really see the negative impact of that. But yeah, I think when I'm talking to people now, they don't realize just how they haven't realized just how important it is. But then when they reflect on themselves, they can easily acknowledge then just how effective it can be.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. Like we talked about, having a negative body image ourselves and how that can have an impact on the people around us, like the young people around us and our children and other young people around us. But like if you're flipping that, if you're actively working on your own relationship with food, with eating, and with body image, like what are the ripple effects that you've seen or that you think how can it impact in a positive way? People are
Yeah.
taking the time to do this work for themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great because yeah, we can have such a negative impact, and a lot of the research is on that, on the negative impacts that parents and have on their children and peers. But if we can have that negative impact, it also means, well, we can have flip it and have a positive impact as well. And there's so much we can do for that. And it just firstly takes acknowledgement of, okay, maybe this isn't the best approach. And in our heads, society, diet culture has twisted it so much to tell us that the right thing to do is to call yourself all these names so that you change your body shape and that you look more like everyone. But no, because if we woke up in the morning, if we all woke up and accepted the bodies that we have, oh my God, billions of euros would be lost in the diet industry, in the beauty industry. And there's places for everything. I'm not saying, oh my God, you have to stop wear makeup and whatever. But no, it's about teaching our children that, yeah, we can accept our bodies, and it's about acceptance. So how do we teach acceptance to our children? And it's focusing on body functionality, focusing on what your body can do, being grateful for what your body can do, talking outwardly about that, and engaging in things that are good for you and that you enjoy. So embodiment is another area of research that is really showing to have great effects, promising effects on our body image. So finding a movement or a meditation, something that you do that just lets everything else slip away, that you can just be in your body and you forget about the world, kind of like getting into that state of flow, which can be hard for people. And especially if you're constantly stressed or anxious about different things. So it's finding, and it can be a movement, like it can be a form of exercise, or it can be trekking, or it can be swimming, I don't know, cycling, whatever floats your boat. It doesn't have to be movement at all. It can be sitting and reading.
Yeah, creativity, all first. And I'm thinking about that as well. I've been thinking about that recently in terms of creativity. You know, and I've seen even my friends who have children, like they're great for like doing arts and crafts stuff maybe with their kids, but then at some point in our lives we forget that actually if that is something we enjoy, that somehow it's like it's not appropriate for adults unless you were like are an artist, you know, or doing it for some other bigger purpose. It's like this sense of play, which is great for our flow state, just seems like that's not, it's like something we shouldn't be doing as adults. That's for kids. But it's like, who says? And maybe it turns out that that's actually really good for us as well.
Yeah. And like sometimes we say, oh, I can't do that because I have to do the housework or get the jobs done. But oh my God, taking those minutes to be in that fun state is brilliant for them to see as well. And just on from that, like doing things, saying things like that out loud. So thinking aloud, saying, I'm really enjoying this game. I feel like I'm so relaxed playing it. Them hearing those things, or when you're eating a meal, oh, this meal is really going to make me feel good about feel more energetic, or whatever it is, or I'm really enjoying this pizza. I love the way it tastes, because it doesn't all have to be completely nourishing foods. We showing them that you can eat for enjoyment as well, and that even I'm going to leave the rest of that pizza down because I actually feel like I'm really satisfied right now and I don't need to eat it. And I might come back and eat it again. Like, I mean, this sounds so silly, but saying these things out loud, teaching them how to think about food and different things. Even the clothes we wear, these jeans are really tight. And not saying, oh, I need to lose weight. I can't believe these used to fit me last year. Saying, these jeans are really tight. I'm going to change into something else because I don't feel comfortable and I can't move around. I can't chase you better, or whatever you're doing with them. So thinking aloud about all these things can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, so actually affirming the positives and then holding back on any negative internal dialogue we have that we're so used to just verbalizing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so people think that a positive body image as well is loving your body all the time and never thinking negatively about that. But it's so unrealistic to think that we're all going to have days where we don't like what we see or we don't feel comfortable. And that's where the neutrality comes in, that even though I don't feel good today, I'm still going to feed myself. I'm still going to look after myself. I'm still going to nourish myself, and getting our kids to realize that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though instead of when then.
Yes, exactly. When
Yeah.
and then.
Yeah. And so tell me a bit more about the research that you've just about completed, Siobhan, like what, and focusing on like teachers' body image, like what has been your findings? Like how what have you learned from this huge project?
Yeah, so I looked at the literature first, coming from parents and from friends or peers, and the impact that parents and peers have on a child's body image. And even though teachers are in the realm of being as influential, so some children are spending 7 hours with their teachers every day. And then in smaller schools, you have the same teacher for 2 to 4 years in primary school. And so the impact, if a teacher has a possible or engages in behaviors that are really modeling negative behaviors for a child, or ways to interact with food or themselves or their body, that's going to have a profound effect on the child's own body image. So my research is just kind of the starting block. It's looking at, well, what is the body image of teachers, and if a teacher, and I looked at self-objectification as well. So if a teacher has high levels of negative body image and high levels of self-objectification, are they more likely to engage in negative body talk and disordered eating behaviors? And so I found that yes, they are way more likely to engage. So now my research is small, so it was 114 teachers, and unfortunately, over 98% had negative body image, and they were engaging. 65% were engaging in negative body talk on a regular basis.
That's
So
quite a lot, even
yeah,
though a sample is small-ish, but like over 100 people isn't that small, you know?
yeah, and it's small samples are supposed to be reflective because it was based all over Ireland. So it's supposed to be reflective of the population of teachers as a whole. But anyways, more research will be done on it. But this is just the starting block to show that, okay, well, if this shows if negative body image is going to increase the likelihood of these two behaviors. And I picked those two behaviors because they're behaviors that children can see in the classroom. They can overhear teachers talking negatively, and they can see teachers engaging in food negatively as well. And also, food comes into a lot of our teaching too, in different subjects. So, how are teachers talking about food? Are they calling foods good and bad? Are they just even making fleeting remarks about, oh, I can't eat that today, or teachers trying to be good, or different things, which teachers, we have absolutely no education around this. We aren't taught that this is how you should talk about your body, this is how you should talk about food. Talking about food in a certain way is going to have a really negative. We don't know anything about that. So, yeah, that's the starting point. So, the next phase would be to look at teachers and children together, and is it having a knock-on effect on the pupils in the classroom?
Yeah. So more, when I listen to you talk about both what you discovered or even the focus of the research, it feels like, there's a room for a whole big education piece, both in like continuous professional education, but also maybe eventually to come in and start talking about this already in the training for the new teachers coming along, so that
Yeah.
they don't have to do it retrospectively.
Yeah, and I actually found I was able to control for age, and so I looked at positive body talk also. And um, as teachers got older, they engaged in less positive body talk. So I'd need to look into that in other research to see, is that because younger teachers are learning more about the benefits of positive body talk, or is it because when we get older, we're coming further and further away from the ideal of what the perfect body is, and so we start talking about ourselves in a more negative way. So it could be a
Yeah, that's
bit
an
of both.
interesting one. Yeah, possibly a bit of both. It feels like just like intuitively. And also I think it's almost like if you haven't done the work because maybe you didn't have to because your body was quite close to the ideal, and then it is changing as we're aging as a normal part of the aging process, then I'm guessing you'll be more likely to talk about yourself more negatively as you're moving, like you said, as you're moving further away from that ideal and just the ideal of youth as well. So yeah, that's really interesting. Whereas I'm thinking about some of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with in that maybe age bracket from 45 and up, and are starting to do the work on themselves, then they're less likely to maybe talk about it because you realize that it's not helpful. And I've been engaging in this for 20, 30 years that it hasn't even worked, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it can be a great time to do it because you have so much experience with that.
yeah, I think I find when I work with people, like there's a different energy and opportunity when you're working with people in their early 20s, and then when you're working with people in their maybe mid 40s, 50s, and kind of beyond, where there's a because I feel like, you know, 20, 30 years ago when those um, women were in their teens, there wasn't the kind of conversation there is now. But also you've been engaging in the same behavior for a long time, and it turns out that it wasn't really supportive long term. Whereas with the younger people, I feel like some of them are more aware of the current discourse around body
Hmm.
positivity and even body neutrality and diet culture. They might still have fallen into the grips of it, but they're just kind of going, no, I just don't want to be doing this for another 5 years even, or 10, or worse, 20. That's like sort of incomprehensible. So but I just feel like for the older generation, just there wasn't, even for people who had diagnosable eating disorders, there were much less support or knowledge even 30, 40 years ago, just barely existed.
Yeah, yeah, there has been great strides made in eating disorder support, but oh my God, it has such a long way to go yet.
Such a long way. And I think the work that you do, Siobhan, both by educating teachers, parents, coaches in the sports clubs, it's like helping to have the people fall in like it's like upstream work, right? It's to
Hmm.
help people developing some of these challenges or buffering the kids from getting out in the world of diet culture, and that they're more resilient against it because, like you said, I love the word you used, being lovable. If they know they're being lovable in whatever body they're in, then there's much more resiliency for them going out in the world where we're still kind of having, you know, a lot of this
Yeah,
imposed on us.
yeah, and I love that word resilience as well because I think a lot of the time we try to protect our children too much from everything and not let them see certain things or not let them engage with certain things. But I think it can be so beneficial to know you will meet this in your life and here are some tools to deal with it. So even with a teenager, like, I mean, how long can we keep them away from social media? It's going to be very hard, but sitting with them and going through their feed and saying, okay, look, oh, there seems to be a lot of people who look the exact same on your feed. I wonder why that is. Why are these type of people always put in there? But I wonder if we started following some different accounts that have more diverse bodies, and even looking at celebrities who are selling or marketing or influencers selling things. Why are they selling that? Is it for your benefit or is it for their benefit? What are they getting from this? And asking questions like, if I was someone who completely disagreed with this person, what are some of the things I would say? So just getting them to be really critical about things that are happening online. But doing that with them, like doing a little lesson, going on social media with them sometimes and commenting on some of the things that they're seeing and how this might be impacting how they're seeing the world.
Yeah, that sounds really, really wise. And maybe something that, I don't know, do people think about that that's something you can do, and having those open conversations around these things, like you're saying, like how is that impacting you, or what does that make you think, or how does that make you feel? Is it helpful? For whose benefit in it is it? And I think even as adults, I think thinking about those things as we are scrolling through our social media feeds are helpful as well. But for the kids to, yeah, to engage a bit more critical thinking, because I feel like it's getting increasingly more difficult with social media in terms of filters and what we look at. Whereas like when we grew up, and I know I'm a bit older than you, but like there wasn't any, like, you had magazines, you had some advertisement on TV, depending on how many channels you had.
Mm.
Um, and there was some peer influences and stuff, but there wasn't the kind of filtering. And you'd know when you look at like typical types of bodies that would be shown in media, and you might be aware that some of them would be photoshopped or manipulated. But now we have filters that we can put on our own faces. So we have another level of distortion that just wasn't there, 20 years ago. I'd say even 10 years ago, it wasn't there to the extent it is today,
Yeah.
with the way we can Photoshop ourselves. So now I don't even look like myself. So I don't know what I look like, because the objectification of what I look like back at from my phone, which is not a mirror,
Mm-hmm.
it's nowhere near the reality. But I also don't think I feel like our brains can't comprehend this kind of thing, because it's like you're looking back at the phone, but it feels like my brain thinks it's a mirror, but it's not a mirror.
Yeah.
So it becomes very distorted. And
Yeah.
no
And
wonder that leads
even,
to social anxiety then.
yeah. And that's where it's coming from. But even, do you know, there's a lot of body positivity posts of, this is what I look like on social media, but this is what I really look like. And people kind of morphing their bodies to show fat rolls or whatever. But that has been shown not to be helpful for adult teenagers at all, because they are still just looking at the perfect image, or the one that's photoshopped, and that's what they want, regardless of whether it's real or not. They're seeing this image, and even though the one right beside it is saying, no, this is what I actually look like, they're zoning on that, and they don't have the ability to say, okay, that is not real. And either do we. It's not just
Mm.
teenagers. I mean, we're seeing this picture, go, oh my God, wow, perfect, whatever, and it's impacting the way we think about ourselves. And so those messages that are purporting to be good for our body image are actually not having that effect at all.
Interesting. So basically, I think what you're saying is like the less filtering, the better, if we want to be somewhat, um, yeah, minding our body image online, to look at
Yeah.
the least filtered picture. But again, it's getting so sophisticated that it's really difficult to tell as well sometimes what's
Yeah.
real and what's not real. I mean, there's ways you can, if somebody has super smooth kind of face, or you kind of go, I'm not so sure, but it is it's getting more difficult. And I feel as well some of the apps just have like inbuilt filters. They just make you into something that you're not really. Or I heard somebody she was using AI for like to get some fresher profile pictures, and the AI just automatically kind of made some tweaks to her face to make her look younger. And that was, I mean, that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. But I just thought, oh, That's really interesting because who's training the AI,
I know the AI is picking up on this, and that's scary. But then we also have to look at that, yeah, we can put filters on our pictures. Then there's the permanent filters or work that younger and younger children are getting, or teenagers are getting done, like lip fillers and Botox and I don't even know, cheeks things and that not only getting it done, but not getting it done in a safe place, like the black market people that are doing these injections and then having horrendous side effects and causing death, even. And the awful pressures that they're feeling because of this. If you look at shows like Love Island, I mean, they're just setting up young people to have this idea that I need to look this way in order to achieve things in life. And those
Yeah.
people on those shows are achieving so much from life. But to get onto those shows, like achieving things in terms of material success, like getting loads of followers and getting clothes deals and stuff. But what are they doing to get onto those shows?
Yeah. What's the cost and how is that having an impact? Because I feel like it goes back to what you mentioned earlier. Like if you have poor body image, it affects your self-esteem and then that can put you in a vulnerable place with risky behaviors or how you think about it. And I feel then using black market cosmetic procedures in order to fix self-esteem is a risky place to be. I understand why people would feel drawn to that. And also like we have to remember there's a lot of marketing, there's also a lot of pressure, and for the reason you just mentioned. And, can we pause a moment and think, is this really going to help? And I feel as well with self-esteem and it's an inside job, but we're being told or sold constantly that it is something that we can fix on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everywhere, from every
Everywhere,
angle.
yeah.
And men, it's usually seen as a woman's problem, but men now are experiencing it more and more, whether it's to do with their hairlines or their how they look. And yeah, it's men are being objectified just as much as women in some respects now as well.
Yeah, and younger men as well. And I think
Yeah.
eating disorders are on the rise in younger in men too. And again, it's not talked about as much. So there's so much in there, and there's so much I think like from this conversation that you can take away and think about. But for me, it feels like being aware of how we speak to ourselves and making sure that we kind of keep that to ourselves, even if we're not actively or we're in the early days of pursuing a better relationship with our own bodies, and affirming to our children that they're lovable no matter what, and that can create a better body image and a better resilience for when they go out in the world and have to encounter some of these things for themselves. I think that's what I'm taking away.
Yeah, that's everything in a nutshell right there. Because they're picking up on everything, and not even not even just what we say, but imagine the way you look at yourself in the mirror, or you pull at different parts of your body, or they're seeing that too. And so stopping yourself from saying the things out loud, but stopping yourself from reacting to yourself the way you've been doing. So, and love yourself and talk to yourself the way you want your child to love themselves as well.
Nice words. So, Siobhan, thank you so much for this conversation. And as we round it up, I would love to ask you what I asked all my guests. What is joyful nourishment to you?
Um, yes, so joyful nourishment is getting rid of the guilt. And by that, I mean allowing that unconditional permission to not only eat whatever you want, but to enjoy and sit with it, and permission to finish what you want and not finish what you want, and just being able to get rid of any judgment when it comes to food. So for me, it would be a big bowl of pasta.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, food freedom is joyful nourishment.
Yes, food freedom, which is hard. We've been sold a load of rules, but you'll get there.
It can take work for sure, but I do believe that it is worth it, because it opens up so much space for a whole bunch of other things that we can do in our lives that has nothing to do with food eating or hyper focusing on our bodies. So, so thank you so much. And where can people find you if they want to check out the work you do more, and maybe book you for a talk or something in their local area, or for an online webinar?
Well, I'd love to come and chat with you in your groups. I'm very silent on social media at the moment, but I'll get better. But I'm on Body Image for Kids. So at Body Image for Kids, and that's the best place to get me.
That's the best place. So thank you so much, Siobhan, for being part of the Joyful Nourishment podcast.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks for listening. The Joyful Nourishment podcast is produced with no financial backing, and your support means a lot to keep this project going. If this episode has been helpful in any way, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. This helps the podcast to be found by others. And of course, you can also forward this episode to a friend whom you think may benefit. Find out more about what I offer on straightforwardnutrition.com, and if you're interested in working with me, please use the link in the show notes to book in for a free initial 30-minute session. And finally, please come and join the Joyful Nourishment community over on Substack, unless you're there already, by subscribing to my newsletter using the link below.